I'm going to actually properly start recording now. So when it comes to strafing and understanding source movement, it's pretty important to also understand a few core concepts just so that you can maybe have it click a little better. This is why I like to have an in-game and a on-the-screen teaching style, because it teaches people, I feel like, in either way that people may resonate with more, because this movement stuff is a little bit more difficult than macro decisions, let's say, comparatively, right? Like, it's kind of difficult to show what a velocity might be if you don't understand what it is to begin with. So obviously your velocity is going to be your character's speed. It is the size of this blue arrow and will be shown as such later on in any sort of descriptions. So your velocity will change depending on the speed of your character. So if you are going faster, that arrow is larger. If you're going slower, that arrow is smaller, right? And this velocity is just your raw number. So if you were to look into Deadlock here, this velocity says 0, now it says 115. If you start strafing, you really start going, right? I'm already at 600. I peaked at 600. This is your peak velocity, right? That shows how fast you are going, and it shows just your speed, but it does not show your direction. So if you have ever seen Despicable Me, I'm sure you have familiar with a certain character named Vector, and he has a actual line describing exactly what his name means. So his name actually is something that is important to this. It is a physics concept, but this will be the craziest thing to understand. The vector is your direction of travel. Definitionally, he does actually say it in the movie, but it is a quantity both defined by a magnitude and a direction, right? So your magnitude is your, essentially your velocity, right? Your velocity is your magnitude. So my magnitude currently was like peaked at that much. I was at 300 whatever. And my direction was this way, right? I start strafing more. I'm going like this way now. So your vector is whatever direction you're currently going, right? It's important to understand what these concepts are, because you will see in the next couple of slides here, or next couple of concepts here. Before we go any further, did anybody have any questions or not understand any of these words yet? I'll answer as needed. Awesome. Okay. So your acceleration is going to be defined by a red arrow, and it is entirely different than your blue arrow of velocity, right? Or rather your vector. The velocity is indicative of how large your vector is, or how large this arrow is. And your vector is just the direction of which you are going, right? Inertia, right? A very, very similar concept. So we'll make gravity normal again, just for the sake of it. And with acceleration, I've had a very good way to explain it is off of a wall jump, right? So acceleration is any sort of addition to your speed, right? So if you're in a car and you press the acceleration pedal, right, we start going forward as you would expect. So when you are accelerating against any sort of, or whenever you're accelerating into any sort of direction and you have a vector, any addition to that current vector is acceleration, right? So you can always accelerate forward, right? And a dash is an acceleration. I went up to 642 there, right? 651, right? So that is an acceleration to your current vector, but also it doesn't have to be the same direction. So whenever you wall bounce, that is a new acceleration to your vector. So if you bounce off the wall, you can see first I was going this way, and then I go on it, I press spacebar, I get a huge burst of speed this direction, right? That is an acceleration upon your current vector. So obviously, if you do it, you'll see that you bounce off of the wall, right? Now, if you are unable to mitigate that, then you will not be able to continue going on the wall, right? Now, the ability to mitigate it is actually going to be how strafing comes into play, right? So feel free to practice this as you wish. I'll just make it simple just for the sake of being able to feel it out and how it feels. But you can walk against this wall and then just slowly move your mouse back into the wall while holding the directional key that goes into the wall. So you just jump and then move your mouse slowly, and just as a slow rate of change, just keep moving your mouse into the wall and keep holding the key into the wall, and you go back and forth, back and forth. That'll help you guys kind of feel what it feels like to strafe. And you may notice if you still have CO show pause up, that you may be, or you should be, maintaining a decent amount of your velocity. And yes, don't hold W. So the entire time, if you were looking at my keys or looking at my stream, you may notice that you can see my keys, right? So do pay attention to that. If you have any questions, if you ever need something walked through, I can do it for you. And the key presses tend to help people. So obviously you can see here, I'm not pressing W at all. I'm just only pressing D and moving my mouse around. Now I'm only pressing A and moving my mouse around, right? Now, feel free to, again, this is doable on every hero. This is equivalent for everybody, right? Everybody can do the same thing here. It just is all in different feelings. So, like, Abrams, for instance, his camera is a little higher, and he feels a little heavier, right? So he kind of sucks a little bit more with movement, but whereas Holiday, you know, she's in a quick dash bucket, so she has a different feeling. So feel free to change your heroes as you wish. Fun little part here too is that Ivy actually has a 10% gravity buff, where she is not as heavy as everybody else. So you may notice if an Ivy jumps, she actually stays in the air longer than a Holiday does, just by a little bit, right? Hello, new people. We are hosting a movement class. Feel free to join if you wish. The Connect is listed in the Academy General VC. Join as you wish. You can join either side of the team. No death is on, but don't fight anybody. We're just here to learn. And if you're having problems joining, then just let me know. And then Neil asked earlier, or I guess a minute ago, he asked if practicing without Celeste is important. So I have said in the past that practicing on Celeste can reinforce bad habits, and this is still the case, but Celeste is a very good way to explain why strafing is important and how air acceleration can affect you, right? So if you are really picking up Celeste or really trying to like pick up movement in general, I tend to recommend not to pick up Celeste first, and kind of understand how your baseline movement is, because it will mess up your muscle memory. If you're planning on being like a one trick on Celeste, you know, maybe go ahead, sure, whatever, right? But not everybody wants to one trick Celeste, but everybody wants to learn movement, right? So it's kind of important to just understand kind of like the world that you're working in, right? Because every Source game is different as well. So being able to feel out these strafes and feel out how your movement works and how your velocity changes and how your acceleration feels, like all these things are very important, and Celeste just kind of offsets it a little bit with that extra gravity, which you'll feel, I'm sure, after you start to strafe and start to feel how much slower it is to strafe on another hero compared to Celeste. So it looks like a lot of people are starting to understand how to stay on a wall and strafe on the wall and not waste stamina doing so, right? So good on you guys. Let's see the next part. So the next part of this is going to be kind of the difficult side of explaining why exactly strafing works. So why exactly it works is that is a couple factors together. So you may notice if you're walking in a certain direction or have a certain velocity, let's just do no gravity again, just for the sake of it. So you may notice that when you are in the air, again, we'll touch back on this air control number, right? So your air control is going to be this 80 velocity on Holiday. I'm sure it changes for certain heroes. But an important thing to know is that whenever you are in a certain direction and you move your camera around, it does not change your active velocity, right? So whatever your current speed is going to be is not affected by the direction that your camera is facing or the direction your character is facing. It is wholly based off of the direction that you are going. Your vector does not change, save for certain parts, right? So let me bring up the whiteboard again. Why does strafing work? When turning your camera, your vector does not change. That's an important thing to remember. And then second, we touched on it a little bit. Air velocity has limitations in a single direction, right? So whenever you're going a single direction, that velocity, your air control, is locked into a number, right? Now it may accelerate a little bit, but you may notice even if you get some velocity from strafing and you hold down the same button again, you go straight back to 80, right? Or whatever your velocity will be for your hero. I think most heroes are 80 though. The value of that limit that you have, that 80 number, is your air control number. We talked about it a little bit. Celeste is a little higher. And then the difficult part to understand and what exactly strafing is, angling your vector away from your velocity bypasses the limitation that is put in on your movement. So this is a reason why strafing is so important and why it actually works in source games. So it'll be kind of a little difficult to fully understand it, wrap your head around it, but I will explain it, and then we'll kind of just try and feel it out. And then by the time you guys try and feel it out, you should be able to actually understand it a little bit better, because it is wholly a feeling sort of thing. It's very difficult to teach this stuff just on pen and paper. So Leaf has a very, very good explanation of this, but it's also very technical, so I hope that I have prepared you for the understanding of this technical explanation. I should be able to actually pull it up. You may not have... I'm glad to hear. So I'm going to be using Leaf's explanation specifically on air acceleration limits and as to why strafing works. So I'm going to re-stream because I'm just using OBS at the moment. So I'm going to stream my screen, and you guys should be able to hear at the same time too. So let me know if you don't hear it. I'm going to just play a little bit of this video. Just let me know if you cannot hear this. A little quiet. Okay, I'll turn up a little bit, and then we will go to the air acceleration limit. So he uses this very useful graph to show. That's a little loud. He uses a very useful graph to show what I was trying to explain. Right. So if we go back to my thing here. This blue arrow is the same as this blue arrow. The size of it is the magnitude, right? Thus making your vector. Right, your direction, the arrow, the size, the magnitude, your vector, right? Your acceleration is going to be, for him it'll be a yellow arrow, but you'll see. The yellow arrow is your acceleration, essentially the addition to your velocity. And this can be anything, to an air dash, to a strafing in the air, to fans, whatever, right? Any sort of thing that adds velocity. Something that if you ever play Viper, if you've ever been heavy meleeed while sliding on Viper, and you go really, really fast, that's the same thing. It's the same exact thing. You get an acceleration from getting heavy melee. Same idea. And then the kind of nebulous topic that actually surrounds your strafing is the strafe angle. This is what I call it. Some people call it other things, but your angle of strafe is essentially this green line here, and it can be represented a bunch of different ways. So let's say that you have where's my blue at? Let's say that you have a set velocity here, right? Hello, duck. You have a set velocity here. And it is this large, right? This is your vector here, right? So you have a little bit of, let's say this is your regular walking speed, right? And this, we'll say for the sake of, actually, we'll make it easy. This is your in the air regular velocity, right? You hit that 80 units in one direction, right? Essentially a perpendicular force to your current direction within this angle, right? It's roughly 85 to 90. I think deadlock is a little different. It should be 85, like kind of like right here. But all source games gonna have this angle here, right? And essentially, if you're getting an acceleration that is applying a force 90 degrees, or whatever this sweet spot is, to your current vector, that is what enables you to start gaining speed. As to why it works exactly, it's a whole bunch of air acceleration nonsense and source jank and whatever, right? There's just a bunch of stuff added to it, but that is the general idea as to why it works. Let's see, Stephanos is asking a question. I'll take a sip of my tea while I wait. Speaking of questions, if anybody has any, you can feel free to pipe up at any point in time. Just, raise your hand, whatever similar. I don't mind getting interrupted a little bit if there's any sort of important questions you have. But this angle, and it can be represented a bunch of different ways, and I will, I think it was linguist. I don't remember exactly what his name is, but he actually hosted a similar class on this stuff just recently, so I might steal a little bit of his explanations. But essentially, there's just a point in this sweet spot that you're looking to add a velocity to, and then when you strafe, to maintain this angle, you have to follow the angle, right? So whenever you strafe, let's say that you're strafing to the left, you have to follow this angle. Now you may notice when you are in this, when you're following this point, it's in an arc. Mind you, this arc will always be relative to that velocity that you are adding on. So you may notice a whole 180, I gained a bunch of speed, right? But I only gained speed when I was following that circle. Now let's go over this way a little bit. You may notice that going in a circle, I'm gaining speed the entire time. But I peaked at 360 because I wasn't being able to follow the angle the entire time. Your angle actually changes the faster you are going. And that's a bit of a difficult concept to fully understand. But it'll be something that you'll feel out eventually, right? And it will make more sense to you. This is something that even like really good players do not always understand. So don't feel bad if you don't get it off rip. If we want to show what exactly this looks like, come over to this jump pad or a similar one, and we'll show kind of the expected path that we're looking to follow. I'll wait for people to come over here. Let me I'll change my stream again so you guys can see my inputs. Gotcha, Neil. All right, so we'll just watch my screen, and you'll see whenever we first hop on this jump pad, we go straight to the buff, right? That's a understood mechanic of the game, right? But if you go onto this jump pad with this, mind you, the vector that you get, which is your vector is that way, right? Your vector will change as you start to strafe around that angle of strafe, that strafe angle that you are aiming for, right? So I'm going to be strafing to the left, which will be my A key in this example, right? To the left will be A. I'm going to be holding A the entire time. I'm going to slowly move my camera and just see where I make it. I make it all the way over here, right? Now, if I was a little bit better at strafing, I would have landed like right here actually, but yeah, feel free to test it out. You should only have to do one jump to actually make it all the way. And don't feel bad if you don't make it the first time. It's not easy, right? But this is a really good way to test your ability to smoothly strafe in an arc. Now, it's kind of hard to show on the map, but I'll do my best. There's so many people on it. But essentially, you're following this arc like this, right? Now, you may notice that this is a full arc, right? That you're going all the way around, like a half circle. So, I would like to introduce this other concept. So, I can't remember his name fully. I think it's linguist or something similar. So I feel bad for not remembering. But he introduced this idea of merry-go-rounds. So when you are following this strafe angle, there you go. So he's introducing this concept of merry-go-rounds. So when you are going around your angle of strafe, you're essentially holding on to a merry-go-round the entire time that you're rotating. So mind you, this is like a rotating disc. You are rotating around this point the entire time, and you are gaining speed the entire time. So you may notice that this arc here is the same as this arc here, right? And to maintain that arc, to maintain that point, you are going all the way around the circle, right? That's why I'm gaining speed the entire time when I'm in the air, like how I did previously when gravity was off. That's how I was gaining speed. I went to that 360 units because I was holding on to that merry-go-round the entire time, right? Now, this can be in any direction. And this actually doesn't have to be just directed to your strafe keys either. So I'll turn off gravity once more just to show the example of it. But I'll do it on Celeste because it's easy to show. With Celeste, with strafing, you'll notice this thing that, again, if we go back to the concept that I spoke of earlier, your camera is completely independent from your vector, right? So if you go in one direction, your camera is independent of that. The only thing that is dependent of that is your arrow keys. So obviously forward is this way, left is this way, right is this way, and backwards is this way. So whatever your keys are, your WASD keys, whatever they are mapped for that, that's what it is, right? And it's always tied to your camera. That's the only thing that's tied to your camera. So that's why it requires your camera to be moving, right? And that's why you move in small arcs or smooth arcs, right, as you strafe back and forth. And mind you, up and down does not actually matter. It's just horizontal. So if you don't have the mouse space for it, feel free to go diagonally. People do this all the time in other Source games. I think the only time that actually matters is like Portal 2, but we're not playing Portal 2, so we don't have to worry about it. But you may notice if I gain some speed here, right, I got a bunch of speed, I'm still strafing, but I'm holding W. And you may ask, Ollie, I thought you're never supposed to hold W in a Source game. That's true, but at the same time, it's one of those rules where it's enforce it until you understand why you break the rule, right? So I'm doing exactly the same strafe that I was doing beforehand, but now I'm doing it with W and S, right? Is not indicative of, or it's not important what the button specifically you are pressing is. It's what is important is where you're looking, so that you can input that direction, right? You can strafe with W and A if you wanted to, WA, SD. You can strafe with those too. You don't have to strafe specific just side to side. But for the sake of ease and the sake of understanding, that's why people do the left or right with A and D, because it's also the most optimal, right? It makes the most sense because it's an immediate 90-degree angle. Yeah, and Neil is bringing up, you can hold W. He's saying you can hold W, but because your vectors become smaller, he said he thinks Linguist says that they come to more of a 30-degree angle. Now, yeah, it's mind you, if you were paying attention earlier, your air control, air velocity, right, that 115 for me right now because I'm on Celeste, it's the same in every direction, right? So that extra increase of velocity is what is allowing you to bypass your limitation, right? That's why you can go back and forth. But you can, at any point in time on a strafe, change it. It doesn't matter, right? You can go A and D, and you can swap to WS if you wanted to, right? It's just feeling it out. And this is a more niche topic, obviously, but it is still it's important on Celeste, maybe only specifically, but you can like strafe around one target, and I can shoot this Abrams the entire time, right? While I'm in the air. So it's a very it's a very, very interesting thing to understand, right? So I think that now is another good point to ask. If anybody has any questions or doesn't understand anything, now is the time to ask so I can address as needed. Awesome. Man, I'm just such a good teacher, right, guys? Yeah, if you want to type here, that's fine too. I'll wait for whoever this Nico Aliz, I'm assuming is how to pronounce it. I don't know. If you have a question, feel free to ask. Yep. What do you mean by SS it? Screenshot? Yeah, I can screenshot it. That's fine. This will also all be recorded as well. Which one are you looking to screenshot? Are you looking to screenshot the whiteboard, or are you looking to screenshot the Leaf presentation? Now, mind you, we actually haven't gotten all the way through the presentation, so this will maybe clear up any sort of confusion as well. Whiteboard, yeah. I could actually just share the whiteboard at the end of this. I don't mind. I'll totally do that. Okay, so going forward, I'm going to kind of let this Leaf video play out so that we can understand, or I will let him speak on a topic, and then I'll explain it, and then I'll let him speak, and I'll explain it, and then we'll try and make it work in game. So he's gonna say in this visual, he's gonna talk about what is what, and I'm gonna play it in its entirety, and then I'll run it back and see if you guys have any proper questions, if anything doesn't make sense. I have an idea that's something that probably won't make sense, but it's best to let it play in its entirety just so you can kind of understand what it means. All right. Did that make any sense at all to people here? We'll start with that. I know it's a lot of words all at one time, and it can be kind of confusing. I'm glad I'm helping. Yes, right. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to explain these things, but this is why I try to I try and chew it up and make it make sense a little bit more so, because Leaf's explanations are literally perfect, but if you don't fully understand the topic already, it's the same thing as oh, I don't know how to solve this puzzle. And the moment you know the puzzle solution, you're like, oh man, I wish I knew, I wish I understood this initially, because it makes so much more sense now, right? It's the same idea. So just helping it click is really a big part of why movement stuff won't work for people some of the time. So what he's talking about, that lockout, right? So anytime that you are, we'll look straight down for this. Anytime that you are strafing, mind you, this is your angular strafe right here. You're 85 degree roughly, whatever, right? Same exact topic, same exact idea. My velocity will be this way. My vector will be this way. Anytime that you are finding yourself in that lockout angle, that's when you are over strafing. So we'll go back over to this event over here, just to explain the idea. But when you over strafe, now I'll do it for the example. When you over strafe, you're going to fall out of the air. And why that happens is because you are in that dead zone. You're no longer in that area that you're looking for, that sweet spot. You are in the dead zone, right? And the dead zone is behind you. So your angle your angle of strafe that you're trying to stay around becomes too much, and you're over strafing, right? And then you lose all your velocity. You lose velocity when you go too fast. So feel free to get on the vent and just fucking move your camera around and just whip it, and you'll understand you're not going to even make it up there, right, if you over strafe. So it's an important topic to understand, that you may lose velocity if you over strafe. But if you correctly strafe, you get a bunch of velocity, right? So it really is just finding that sweet spot. So feel free to put in some reps as I continue to explain some things. I would prefer people have fun with the movement and over just sit in a lecture, right? The whole point of it is to have fun. So as long as we understand that this overstrafe topic will slow you down in the air, and understand that you stay within your angular strafe to continue gaining velocity, we can now move to a different idea. A very good way to practice your strafes is actually to continue sliding. So you can actually slide or strafe out of a slide and actually gain more of a slide than you would normally get, right? So if I were to slide down this stair, and I jump, and I jump. I only get one strafe out of this, right? So meet me at green side, arch mother side. You'll see if I go down this stair, and I jump, and I jump, I don't even get a second strafe, right? So feel free to replicate that as you wish. You don't even get a second slide out of that, right? So everybody looks like they're understanding it. Very cool. So if you see, when you are strafing and you are gaining velocity, you actually gain the ability to strafe longer, right? So this is how you have seen, I'm sure you've seen Deathy, I'm sure you've seen Poshy, I'm sure you've seen Leaf and whoever else just slide forever, right? Now, mind you, I'm not even very good at this concept myself because it's just not very easy. So don't feel bad for it if you can't replicate it every time. But the idea here is, and pay attention to the key inputs here, when you go down, you can jump and strafe out of a slide, and you can get more, right? And you can even go forward or whatever. You don't actually have to do a full strafe like that, or a full, right? But looking to properly strafe, you will gain velocity in the air once you jump, and you are able to actually keep strafing or keep sliding after you jump out of it. So the idea is here, and the only downside of running stuff like this in this way is that now my frame rate is starting to shit the bed, but that's okay. Is that when you start sliding, you want to press the movement key in the direction that you are looking to strafe into right before you jump, and then jump into it afterwards, and then just slowly move your mouse in that direction to strafe. Yep, and you will gain velocity as you jump. Very cool, right, guys? And this is just a very good example on how to show when you do and don't have a good strafe, right? And it will take time, and you can practice it as you wish. You can do this at any point in the map as well. There really is, like, you can do it all the way back here as well. And yeah, make sure you let go of W. You can even do it all the way back at Walker back here, right? So like if you really wanted to test your might, you can dash jump behind Walker, go down this, and then just keep going, right? And if you're really, really good, you'll even make it down to this stairway, and you can continue going, right? Off of one dash jump, you go from Walker all the way to mid bridge, right? And if you're able to maintain your optimal strafe angle, then you're actually able to just keep doing it. I'm pretty sure the full optimal on a flat surface is like 5 slides in total. So mind you, even if you get one extra slide, then feel good about it. You know what I mean? Because it means you're knocking it out. You're doing good. But a good baseline even is just to make it to the Guardian here, if you can manage to. So this is also a very fun one to practice. So this will be similar to what your homework would be if you were to hop into Explore MyC. I hope that it enables you guys to actually be able to practice something like this. And this is not the only part on the map that you have to do it, right? You can do it at any point in the map. You can go backwards. You can go down this staircase, right? And come around the corner this way. And now you're on the way back to your base, right? Like, there are so many places. And this is why sliding is so important and why it's so encouraged that you go down slopes and always are sliding down slopes, because it's, I mean, how else would you guys go? You just hold W, right? I would like to think that sliding down slopes and continuing to slide is much, much faster than just holding W the entire time. And yes, as Neil was saying here, look to strafe during the dash jump. So while you're sliding on the ground, it doesn't really matter what you're inputting, right? Like you can put in, like, the only thing that changes when you're sliding and inputting a input is that you just go in that direction in a small arc. Like you do kind of still strafe, right? But it's just on the ground. But what you're looking to actually jump out of is when you jump, you want to strafe. That's when you are looking to strafe, not when you're on the ground. You almost always are looking to strafe while in the air. Strafing is very, very much not an important thing on the ground, except for very, very niche use cases, but it's not really something in Deadlock that you'll have to worry about. Now that's another thing that we can all practice. So I'm seeing people are, yes, it's not going to be easy. Just so everybody's aware, it's not easy. Right before you jump, not as yeah. So right before you jump, you input the direction you want to strafe in. Then you press spacebar, and then you start strafing as you jump. So if you look at my screen, you can see. You should be able to see my key presses. Right, and mind you, don't hold W at all. I know it's difficult. I know it's hard to understand not to hold W when you want to go forward. It's not intuitive whatsoever. I get it, but it is correct. It doesn't sound right, but the more you play Source games, the more you'll understand. The more it'll make sense. Yeah, don't feel too bad about it if you can't do it right off rip, or if you're holding W the entire time. It is just something that you'll get used to. It's a good thing to practice now, so you just understand when to and when not to press W. Because the whole point of movement is to eliminate unoptimal action, right? And a dead key press, mind you, if it was a different Source game, you actually wouldn't gain any, and you would actually slow down because it changes your air velocity. But in Deadlock, it doesn't really change too much. But why press a key if it's not going to do anything, right? You're looking to press only the keys that you're looking to get value out of. So this is a very good one for you guys to practice. You should be able to get at least 3 slides out of a proper dash jump. At least 3, if not more. And if you're really good, you'll make it all the way down to the stair. Yeah, you may either be not strafing quick enough, or strafing too little. Yeah, you're over strafing for sure. So I hope that is a good example on how to strafe, guys. It looks like we got 15 minutes left. So I have one more example that I want to show you guys, and it is outside of the game, but it is still useful. So feel free to continue doing stuff as you wish. I'm going to be bringing up a different game that you may have heard of beforehand, called Momentum Mod. Momentum Mod is a very, very awesome tool. It's super useful and can really show what that optimal strafe angle is. Now, don't feel bad if you can't do literally anything in this game, because I can barely do stuff in this game. Strafing and b-hopping and surfing and all this stuff is super difficult. Don't expect to be great at it, but it does show a very cool. Let's see. I need to find it. It shows a very cool like visual aid whenever you are playing it. I'm just looking for a map. These maps all suck. I'm not. I don't know. I'm trying to find it first. I will say I could never find the actual map I was looking for initially, so I have to just like find a random one. This one should work fine. I'll bring it up in a moment. Okay. Here we go. You should be able to see keys at the bottom right. You should be able to see a little bar in the center. Welcome to Momentum Mod. This is where you b-hop and do a bunch of stuff and be super cool or whatever. I don't know. But you should be able to see here that my little bar is changing as I have. When I have a vector, my bar is changing, right? Mind you, it's side to side, so it's a little weird, but you should be able to notice that it changes based on my key. It might be a TikTok game, I don't know. But this game is a different source movement, so it'll be a little different. than what you guys are familiar with, but it's still the same concept. So even here, you can actually strafe on the ground and that give you extra velocity, but not something you can do in deadlock really ever when it's important, anyways. But the important thing I want to show here is this little bar. You can see when it's blue and in the center, that's an optimal strafe, right? And you can see I have to now over strafe because I have so much velocity. So the faster that you're going, the slower you have to move your mouse. So you can see now I'm going forward, right? Now, mind you, I'm not the best B-hopper in the world, but you may see as I gain velocity, so initially you're going to see when I first jump, I have to like really move my mouse around, right? Like I'm doing full 180s back and forth, and this is where having a decent sensitivity where you can actually comfortably move 180 is actually very important. But if you have really low sense, don't feel too bad about it. It's just understand that it will be a little bit more difficult for you than someone with a little bit higher sense. Not crazy high sense, but just a little higher sense. But you can see I'm roughly sticking to where I should be to gain velocity. And every time that number is blue, that is when I am gaining velocity. So you may notice if I'm overstrafing, right? Now it's a lot of red. And when it's white, it's not moving at all, right? So if this visual is helping as well, then I hope that it does. It helps you understand a little bit more of why exactly or what exactly it looks like when you are in that like 85-degree sweet spot, right? Very cool, right? It's a similar idea here. It's different, right? Because you can't really go that fast. Oh, the shop is okay. It doesn't go as fast, right? In Deadlock than it does other games, but it's a similar idea. Yeah, don't worry. We're gonna touch corner boosting, edge boosting, and all that stuff later. This is just the strafing class, right? Just so that we understand what strafes are and that we can start implementing them. So if there were any further questions, this would be a great time to start asking questions if you have any. Also, I'm going to clear entities real quick because entities will continue to spawn and it destroys my FPS. So this may crash. Just a fair warning. There we go. There is a rough max velocity, yes, because Deadlock does have an air drag like coefficient, and there's a bunch of physics to it. But essentially, yes, or at least it's so difficult to be gaining so much velocity that it becomes less of a viable thing. Right now, when you're looking to B-hop and all this stuff with strafing, you're just looking to preserve momentum, and yes, you do gain velocity. Like let's say if you're like looking to B-hop or whatever, technically B-hop is like a slightly faster than like running in one direction, but it's really not like viable, right? Like I'm only going a little bit faster than my regular walk. So in Deadlock, you're looking to really just focus on tying your movement knowledge together with strafing, because strafes are what assist you in making it to a certain spot. Okay, now I actually just remembered my favorite location to actually showcase strafing. So please come over to this area on the map and I will show you the perfect example as to why strafing is important and where it may be really useful to show. Because I know the strafe sliding stuff is a little difficult, but this should be a little easier because it's one strafe in totality. And then Honeyglow has a question while we are waiting for people to show up. Would you recommend using Momentum Mod to supplement movement training, similar to how people use aim labs, Kovacs for learning aim fundamentals, or should beginners stick to exploring MIC? I would recommend that beginners stick to Explorer MyC just so they understand. If they are willing and able to get into it, then sure. But movement mod is like not for the faint of heart. It's very difficult for one to really learn how to use it unless you like. I just really started recently getting into momentum mod. A lot of my knowledge gets off. Excuse me. The momentum mod shows, or momentum mod is really for like, if you're already good at it, then do it, sure. But if you don't have a lot of like source knowledge beforehand, it may not make as much sense. So yes, you can, but just understand that it's not exactly the same feeling. Like you should have seen when I picked up the B-Hop or went into the B-Hop map that my strafing is like way faster. My strafing is like this, right? Like I immediately go into my dead zone, right? If I'm trying to strafe as fast as I was initially. So just understanding that it's different, it is still useful 100%, and it helps you understand where that angle is, but it is very much different. So just be careful with that. But if you want to get into it, then absolutely do. I'm not going to stop you from doing anything, but Explore MyC, play Deadlock to get better at Deadlock, right? If not momentum mod, are there any mental tips or tools to help me avoid overstrafing, or is it something that comes with time? So overstrafing is just going to be something that you have to feel out, I'll be honest. It really is just like noticing that you're going slower. Feel free to use the show pause command that I posted earlier. I'll post it again just for the sake of it. Show pause 2. To identify and look at your velocity. I know it'd be difficult to not like be looking at your screen while you're trying to strafe, but you can even just pay attention to your maximum velocity, and you will see that your max velocity will increase as you strafe correctly and will decrease if you don't, right? Yes, strafing and movement in this game is 100% a feeling thing, which is also why it's so difficult to really explain and teach movement, because it's a personal journey. I liken it to an art form myself. It's very much like parkour in real life. Like it's a complete and like utter understanding of your world around you and being able to turn it into your playground, right? Neil says, from when I learned about strafing and just implementing its use on jump pads, which is far easier than in base movement, I've become better at it. I'm still ass, but better than horrible. The more you do it, the better you get. And this is true. If you really want something super simple, go on the jump pads and just strafe, and you'll feel, right? And you'll feel the size of, going back to the previous topic, the merry-go-round. The merry-go-rounds are larger the faster you're going, right? Because it's harder to turn a plane when it's going really fast as to when it's going really slow, right? So that arc that you have, that merry-go-round that you get, is larger the faster you're going. So that means that you move your mouse slower depending on how fast you're going, which is something that's really useful to use on these bounce pads. But a lot of your movement, a lot of your like specific technical movement is going to be on the ground right here, right? Like, so this is where I'm going to show where this is where I'm going to show the importance of strafing. So if we were to be standing exactly where I'm standing, what would be your idea of an optimal way to get to that up there? Feel free to perform it and do it as you wish. I want to see what people think the best way is to get up to right here from there. I just want to see it. Everybody has ideas, feel free to just walk up there, jump up there, whatever you want to do. Whatever you think is a good way to get up there. Okay. Any other takers? Don't feel scared. Just feel it out. Okay, I like it. What if I told you that on any hero, it's a little different for every hero, but on every hero, you can just walk and strafe and make it. Now my frame rate is a little messed up, so it might take me a couple times. But you can literally just wall bounce off of this and climb. Now I can't do it because my frame rate is like 30 right now. But it is something you can do consistently. If I had my full frames, I'd be doing it consistently. There we go. You guys are starting to feel it. So without a jump and just, there we go. Without a jump and just strafing, you can make it up here. Just with one wall bounce and a strafe. There we go. And it'll take time to get it, so don't feel bad if you don't get it initially, right? But just feel it out. Get up to the speed when you're walking. Press spacebar and make it up there. This is a good feeling on how to get an optimal angle. And yeah, people do overstrafe, but people also understrafe. This is a really good way to feel that 85-degree sweet spot that we're looking for. Hey, Luck, it is movement. You're at the end of it. But don't worry, it's being recorded, so we should be chill. Yeah, people are starting to feel it out. You're starting to understand it. If you are starting to feel that you're comfortable with it, you can start going the other way and going down the stairs, walking, and then doing it, right? This can be done either way. So this is my favorite place to practice just feeling out what a strafe should feel like and how, like, visualizing that you are getting extra movement out of it. And mind you, an optimal strafe is no other inputs. You should just be able to climb onto it perfectly without extra help. You don't have to jump. You don't have to have melee. You don't have to use an ability. It's just walk forward, press spacebar on the wall, and jump up. Yeah, no, it's not easy. It's not easy. So don't feel bad if you can't get it every time. Obviously, my frames are really bad. Otherwise, I'd be hitting it more often. But yeah, see ya. I appreciate you hanging around. This will be recorded just in case you guys want to watch it again. But yeah, you can go either direction on this. So feel free to use it as you wish. So if you guys really want to practice one thing in particular, and lately obviously it's strafing, then do this. This is probably a really good way to feel it out, because this comes in handy in other parts of the map as well. Now I'll show one rollout just for the sake of showing one rollout. Let's see if I can hit it with my bad frames. But you can go up here, slide, go over here, and then, wow, right? You can make it all the way over here. It'd be a little cleaner if my frame rate wasn't so bad. I don't think you guys can see it, but after like an hour in this mode, for some reason I think there's like a memory leak or something, so it gets really bad. But there you go. You can make it all the way over here with that same exact strafing principle on mine, where you can come up to this wall and strafe all the way onto this thing, right? So it actually has useful, it actually has a use case, right? Not just in that little area. Not that area is not bad to also use, right? But learning how to tie these things together, yeah, and it's in the secret shop. But learning how to tie these things together really enables a player to know movement and really get around the map. Like these sort of ideas and tying them together is why exactly you see people moving around the map so flawlessly and effortlessly, and like just completely like leaving you in the dust, right? It's because they practice these things and they practice routes. So don't feel bad if you don't get it right away. It takes time. I was not a great holiday player when I first started, and I'm still not amazing. I'm okay. I'll say I'm okay at holiday, but you can always improve, right? So don't feel bad when movement doesn't come naturally. It takes time. I have roughly 900 hours in this game, and I'm only now like really at a point where I can even teach movement, let alone be that phenomenal at it, right? So don't feel bad. It will take time, and it will come differently to some than to others. Just give it the time it deserves, and it will treat you right. So my crouch key bind is control. But yeah. And yes, movement is another thing too. You're really playing Twister with your fingers when you're doing movement stuff too. So don't feel bad if you can't press all the buttons at the right time and do certain things. There's so many random tech that also requires certain inputs, like being able to buffer a light melee into a mantle, into a crouch slide, jump, super glide, whatever, right? There's a bunch of random things that require a bunch of inputs, so don't feel bad if you can't hit them right away. It will take time. Now, I believe it is roughly an hour of movement practice. If we have any other final questions, I'll answer them. But apart from that, my computer is very upset with me, so I'll answer any final questions while I finish my tea. Yeah, of course. I'm here to help. A good custom map. So for practice, probably the best custom map that you can use is Jump Academy or it's Jump Underscore School, I believe is what it is. But you have to download it, and it takes mods and stuff. It's a really good one that explains topics. But if you're looking just to actually practice and play the game and learn, it really is what Neil said, Explore NYC. Just go to Explore NYC, find places on the map, and just do stuff there. Now, I know, Narnia, you're familiar with it, and actually Neil is too. If you remember the second jump of... Oh, it's on this side. If you remember the second jump of jump control, you may remember that, like, you do a dash jump into a jump into whatever, right, to make it all the way across that other platform. No, I don't expect people to understand what I'm talking about, but it is, yeah, that jump that's super annoying. It's literally like this jump right here. I can't do it because my frames are really upset. Hold on, let me kill more minions again. They keep spawning. Yeah, I know, I'm lagging really badly. Whatever, like, there's a memory leak or something. Yeah. No, I have a good computer, so it shouldn't be that. It's just that there's a memory leak in Explore MIC mode or like this map mode. I don't know what exactly it is. I think it's just because the entities keep spawning. Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, don't feel bad if you can't do stuff. Lag is very bad on movement. But the point I'm getting at is that that jump that you guys hated so much is literally like right here. See? It's exactly the same jump. No, I might show it a little bit later to anybody else who's curious about it, but it's literally the same exact jump. So, Narnia, you should also be able to recognize it just a little bit. So, yeah, like, jump maps are important, sure, but, yeah, like, it's everywhere. The Explore MIC mode is really perfect. There's so many things that you can do. Like, I have not even exhausted even close to all the interesting jumps and cool stuff that you can do. So if you're really just looking to get better at movement, just do it on the actual map that matters, right? Movement maps and other stuff, just they work on specific other things. Like jump control is a great map, a very fun one, but it's also just a puzzle map. Once you know how to jump and where to jump, it's really not that hard comparative to other stuff, right? Like the difficulty of doing movement is being able to execute it, not knowing how to jump around things, right? You can learn that, but actually executing it is the difficult part. All right. Any other last questions? And that should be about it. Yeah. Any last questions? You know, the lash is what the lash does. The best lash hole ever. Not a single one that I've ever done. I can tell you that much. All right, I'll go ahead and stop the recording. Thank you guys so much for attending. I really appreciate the turnout. Even with the non-announced class, so many people showed up. So I'm very, very, very honored. I hope that it helped everybody. I hope that if you have any other further questions, I'm always open to answer them. But I'll go ahead and stop the recording now.